Hi, I'm JB Wagner. Welcome to my channel where you need not subscribe. You don't need to leave likes because I'm not trying to make any money. Doing this, I'm just doing it for fun and to share what knowledge I have that I think you might find useful. So today I'm going to talk about vintage lenses on the Canon R50. Vintage 35mm film camera lenses. As always, all the equipment that I show and review, I own personally. So take a look at this camera. This was the Minolta SRT-101 was one of the best-selling cameras in history during the years late 60s into early 70s. Later replaced by the Canon AE1, which was the first camera to have auto aperture control and had electronics. Before that, the cameras were all mechanical. This thing's built like a rock. It's a really well-made camera. Minolta is the predecessor company to Sony, and they're the company that invented autofocus. Well, as I've been involved in photography since about 1970 in a very serious way, and one of the things I loved about a good 35mm or medium format camera was the focusing experience, because they had very large viewfinders, they're very bright, there were split screens, and focusing was part of composition, and I still feel it's part of it today if you make it a part of it. There's times when autofocus makes a lot of sense, but there's times when it's actually both easier and more enjoyable to manual focus. Now, most of the autofocus lenses out on the market today don't have very good manual focus dampening like this lens does. No comparison with a lot of them. Some do, but very few. So what you can do to enjoy this quality of focusing, and again, in a budget-friendly manner, which is, I think, what the R50 experience is partly all about, is you can buy a adapter ring like this, and I'll put links for this below in the description. This is from a company, I bought a whole bunch of theirs, called Fotasy, F-O-T-A-S-Y. And this particular adapter is for Minolta MD to EOS-R. And this lens is actually an MC Rokkor Minolta lens, but MD and MC all have the same bayonet mount. So it's real simple. You just remove the lens. This is my 10 to 18 zoom, and then line up the little dot here, put the ring on. Whoops, wrong dot. There we go, right there. Then we pop this baby off this beautiful vintage camera, pop it on here, and that's it. So this is a 50mm 1.4. Now you could do this with a Nikon, with a Canon FD, with Contax, Yashica. There's just, a lot of historical brands, Konica. But I love this particular Minolta series. The MC series has fantastic dampening and excellent quality and really, really good quality glass. To be able to shoot with this, you just need to go into the menu setting and choose shoot without lens, and then you need to enable the focus peaking and choose whichever color you like. Focus peaking highlights whatever's in focus in red or yellow or green or blue, whatever color you've chosen, and it works really great. Now, interestingly, so there's no metadata from this lens, so you won't know what aperture you used or any of the information like that from the lens itself. Well, that's basically the aperture. Big deal. So you operate the aperture just the way you would on the film camera. There's no difference. And one of the great things about mirrorless cameras is that the viewfinder adjusts to the changing aperture. So as less light comes through, it brightens it up. So you can still do your focusing correctly. And you can tell the depth of field as you change your aperture, because the focus peaking goes further through the image range. So whenever you adapt a 35mm film camera lens, it's just like adapting a full frame digital lens in terms of perspective. Because the full frame cameras shoot the identical image size as the traditional 35mm film camera. That's what it was patterned after. So this 50 becomes an 80, and it's a 1.480. And this lens is available on eBay oftentimes for under $100, which is incredible given the quality of lens and glass that's involved and the feeling and how good it is. It's really a pleasure to use. The adapter ring, I think, is less than $20. I'll provide a link on Amazon. And you'll see you can, like I said earlier, you can buy rings for Nikon lenses or for Canon FD lenses, many different brands of the traditional 35mm cameras. So this is another bargain proposition. You could buy the modern 1.8 50mm bargain cheapo Canon lens, but it's not going to be as much fun to use as this is if you want to really get involved with manual focus, because it's going to be horrible, the focusing ring compared to this. This is way more fun. And believe me, and I'll show examples, the quality of images you can get from this lens are stunning and remarkable. This lens is over 50 years old. So this morning, as I was working on this video, I grabbed the R50 with the Minolta and did a few shots. We have a ton of snow here and it was really cold, so I shot through our windows, a couple of shots outside like this one, and then I did some closer up photos to show the bokeh on images in our dining room and kitchen, like this one. All of these are shot in RAW. I only shoot in RAW, and I process in DxO Photo Lab, which is a remarkable piece of software that I've come to rely on completely. And then after that, and in some of these instances, I also used what's called their Nikkor collection to add effects, feeling, different color, black and white. And finally, I ran them all through Topaz AI to mainly do some sharpening at the end. And when you when you read reviews about lens being shot like wide open at 1.4 and a lack of contrast, or they're soft, all of these things can be dealt with, improved creatively in post-processing. If you saw the before images of these and then the after images, there'd be a dramatic difference. But still, it's remarkable that you can get this type of image quality from a lens that's, as I said, in the neighborhood of 50 years old. And it's super fun to use, and it opens up creative possibilities. And all of this for the lens and the adapter ring for about $100. I don't know how you can beat that. It's not like a huge risk, but it is an awful lot of fun. All right, when you adapt a vintage 35mm film camera lens like this one, it's the same as using a full frame lens in terms of the aspect ratio or the crop factor, let's say. So full frame cameras are actually based on the original 35mm frame dimensions. So a 50mm film camera lens is identical to a 50mm full frame lens. So that means on the R50, for example, which is an APS-C sensor, this 50mm lens is an 80mm lens. So what you end up with is an 80mm 1.4 lens, which is like the perfect portrait lens, a perfect bokeh producing lens. It's ideal. Now, this lens often is available on eBay for under $100. And I'll give specific information about this particular lens. With Minolta, they have the MC series, before that the PG series, and after that, after the MC, the MD series. The MD series are very much plasticky lens barrel. They're lightweight and they feel cheap. That's why I prefer the MC Rokkor X series. The PG are older. They're really good too. They have great dampening. And you know, I don't think it matters that much what coatings are on there because of what you can do in post-processing. Now remember that if this lens has issues with vignetting or corner sharpness, those will be mitigated by the fact that the lens is on an APS-C sensor and not a full frame sensor. So that sensor's more in the sweet spot toward the center of the lens. Of course, once you have an adapter ring, you can adapt any lens regardless of focal length. So I have a 55 macro lens from Minolta that's brilliantly sharp. I have a 135, which is effectively like 200, and I have a 200, which is really like 320. And you just, some of these lenses are excellent and very affordable. Now, if you find that sharpness is an issue, I highly recommend Topaz Photo AI for sharpening. It is amazing. And I have achieved results with these lenses that I've shared with people where there is no way they would know that this was a 50-year-old, that it was a 50-year-old lens. It's just incredible what you can do with the images in post. Now, just remember, I always shoot RAW, and I do my RAW processing with Photo Lab, with DxO Photo Lab, and then I do additional processing sometimes in Topaz AI, and then convert to JPEG when I'm done. And to me, there's no substitute for RAW for the type of work that I like to do. So in the late 70s, film cameras reached their zenith as far as viewfinders went, the best, the brightest, the most fun to focus. And when autofocus came out, it really destroyed viewfinders because the companies decided you could look through a small dark viewfinder because you didn't need to focus anymore. And that carried over into digital cameras until the advent, frankly, of mirrorless cameras like the R50 now. DSLRs, which have a mirror and pentaprism like film cameras, are very, very hard to focus manually. Usually you have to rely on a beep or something. The focus screens are not designed for that, but mirrorless cameras are a joy to focus manually because of the focus peaking and sometimes magnification. So remember, you can purchase these rings for different brands of lenses. The most common lenses you'd be looking at are Nikkor, different series of Nikon lenses, the Canon FD series lenses, and the Minolta Rokkor the Minolta Rokkor X MC Minolta Rokkor X is my favorite of the Minoltas, but the PG or even earlier ones are good as well. I'll do another video on other favorite legacy lenses, vintage lenses, besides just this Minolta 50. But you know, for like buying this lens for 80 bucks and the ring for like 20, it's an unbelievable addition to your R50 kit. If you have any comments or questions, leave those below, and thanks for watching.